Hi, I'm Mark Monlux, and tonight I will be hosting the last Epic Sketchtime. That'll be in June. Epic Sketchtime will be taking a vacation through July, and we will be back come August. I do a webcomic called The Comic Critic and another one called The Return of Stickman.
I'm Bill Morse. I'm a cartoonist and illustrator, and I do a comic strip called Rhapsodies.
My name is Pat McHugh, and I do a comic called The Devil and Mr. Gandhi.
I'm Jim Kersey. I do a comic called The Amok Brothers, as well as Oversimplified.
So what is everyone working on tonight, and what's everyone's plans for July?
Well, I'm still working on my Witch family illustration. I'm sort of been saving it exclusively for these sessions as a break from the strip marathon. And I will, from the 6th to the 21st, I will be visiting my family in Maine.
Well, I'm working on a short sci-fi comic with Greg Wright of Monstrous fame. Hopefully wrap that up this month or next month.
I'm actually getting married in a couple weeks.
Woohoo!
So there's lots of last-minute preparations, and so I kind of forced myself into some actual pen and ink drawing tonight, and now I'm working digitally. So
I'm putting some last-minute touches on a deck design for my collection of obscure movie monsters. And at the end of July, I will be going to the well, first of all, I'm going to be this weekend celebrating my 29th wedding anniversary with my wife.
yay!
And yeah, we're going to have to plan something big for the 30th. And at the end of July, I'm going to be traveling to Washington, D.C. for
There we go.
the International Forum of Visual Practitioners, and there's Crystal.
Sorry, the webcam wasn't initiating the first time. It just kept giving me a blank screen with a jiggling icon.
So, Crystal, we've all had a chance to do our introductions and saying who we are and what our webcomics are, and then we're telling people what we're going to be doing during the month of July and what projects we're working on tonight. Oh my god, I think Crystal froze up on us. I've been watching Stowe's Twitter today as he enjoys his first day of vacation. His family seems to be having a grand time.
Okay. Sorry, Comcast has been dropping out on us at least once an evening for the last couple weeks. And apparently it chose right when I joined the Hangout to die. One of those nights. So you were saying something about introductions?
Yeah, we've all done an introduction saying who we are, what our webcomic is, and then what we're planning on doing during July during the hiatus, and also what project we're working on tonight.
Ah, okay. Well, let's see. I'm Crystal Rollins. I've worked on a number of webcomics before, but tonight I'll be working on a page from Ersatz, which is this comic that we're hoping to launch. We were initially hoping to launch this Friday, but it might get pushed back like another week. But we've got the first 6 or 7 pages ready of that comic. I'll be working on... Okay. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, because I'll be working on page 6 tonight. I've just got the pencils back from Evan. I'll be doing the line art. Though I've got to finish up some shading on page 5 first. And during the hiatus, I'll be doing what I normally do. Working at my day job and working some more on Ersatz in the meantime. Is that good enough?
Well, that's plenty good enough. You seem to have a quiet crowd tonight. I'm trying to figure out how to get my blob tool to be a smaller size.
The blob tool? Are you in Manga Studio or Photoshop or Illustrator?
I'm in the Illustrator. It's
so
showing...
Are you using the brush command?
Yeah, I think I need to go over to pencil.
So you can make it bigger or smaller by using the bracket left, bracket right keys, the same as Photoshop. That'll increase and decrease the size of the brush.
Let me try that. Well, thank you so much. I didn't know that.
That's the one advantage to my day job being fixing other people's artwork all day, is that you learn like all the ins and outs of every program.
Well, I feel really ignorant because once upon a time I was the go-to guy for Illustrator. I started off with the beta version before anyone else had it, and I was the guy they called whenever they were doing a new version. They said, "What should we do to improve now?" When I was sitting in on strategy meetings, and now I would say that since about 2007, I haven't been involved, and I just have fallen way behind on what Illustrator can do these days.
Well, I definitely won't. I wouldn't want to act like I really know the newer stuff it can do, because I know there's a lot of painting functions they've added in the last few versions, but the bracket up and down has been in there for a couple of versions, I know, because I actually learned it by accident because I do most of my painting in Photoshop, and I just happened to try the same button, and lo and behold, it worked. Yeah. And I'm not as fond of painting and line art in Illustrator just because the auto smoothing in there tends to be a little ham-fisted. I usually end up fighting it more than it's worth. So I am working on a really large project where I'm doing like a 12-foot mural for Rainier. And so I'm doing the line art in Illustrator because with a mural that big, it's the only way I can do the line art and eventually output it to a large enough wall that it'll look really nice and crisp. So I kind of have to work in vectors for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a couple decades, all I did was vector artwork. A lot of the clip art that I generated is now was sold by the various clip art companies that I was doing work for. That went into the Microsoft library of clip art over the years. And I kind of regret doing all that clip art. There was a guy
So are you saying you're the guy who made all of that clip art that was like standard in Word and all of those programs?
I created a lot of it.
Wow. I think that makes you my hero, because I used to like grab all the clip art out of Microsoft Word when I was a kid, and I would just sit there for hours looking through everything that was in there.
But to be honest, there was a number of people. There was a company called 3G Graphics, and they produced, when they got word that Illustrator was going to be coming out, they got a hold of the beta program and figured that there would be a market for clip art because this stuff was great. It was vector art. People couldn't do photographs at that time because that you would have to strip it in separately. Computers just couldn't handle that. And so they came out with, things like borders and icons and just banners and snips and things that most people just make on the fly, but no one had them back then. And so there was them and another company in California that also did them, and they were a consistent freelance client of mine for years, but I stopped doing work for them when I saw a piece of my clip art being used on a Elmer Leonard paperback cover, and all the designer had done was add a string of bullets to this crane's beak, like a bullet belt. And I knew the guy who did this piece, and he had participated in a game called the Pricing Game with the Graphic Artists Guild, and I knew that he got $1,200 for that cover.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, I did that crane for $150. And shortly after that, I saw an elephant that I did in the same series, because it was sort of like this wildlife series, and it was being used as a logo for a restaurant, an Indian restaurant, and it just became so prolific at some point. My Slovakian in-laws from Slovakia were looking through my portfolio, and they pointed at a piece of clip art that I had made in there, and they said, "Oh, we used this as the logo for our hairstyle shop in Slovakia." And I went, "Oh, Christ." And it got to be that everywhere I went, regardless of where I went, I would see a piece of my clip art, and every time I did, I would feel the knife go in and twist, knowing that I could have gotten so much money for that piece. I was on vacation in Australia, and I saw a piece of my clip art at a post office. And then I was in Hawaii, and I saw a piece of my clip art. And then my aunt and uncle were sending out their Christmas holiday newsletter thing. And at the bottom were bits of my clip art that they had grabbed.
Well, I mean, but how much more could you have gotten for that stuff? Because it was preloaded into like a piece of software. And it sounds like about 9 out of 10 of those examples, that was, people who wouldn't have paid anyone for artwork who happened to use your clip art from out of those programs.
Yes, but if my...
if you did it for your own emotional region, I understand that, because that had to feel pretty sucky. But at the same time, like, I don't know if you could have gotten more, because those same people would have turned to some clip art, whether it was yours or whatever artwork was loaded into the program.
Well, the way I look at it, there was a fellow named Bill Werbeck, and a guy I greatly admire. He was the ethics chair for the Society of Professional Graphics Artists, and he actually taught me nearly everything I knew about the industry. Him and other members of that group. And I kind of feel like I let the profession down by undercutting. Yes, it's true that I made the same argument everybody else did. Hey, if it wasn't me, it would be somebody else. I need the money. But in the long and the short of it was, he says, he told me one day you're going to look back and you're just going to regret it. And he's right. I regret doing that. I could have been doing other work that paid more, that didn't undercut the market, other people, and wouldn't be sort of like, do I really want my heritage to be, cheap artwork that undercuts other people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't worry about it nearly as much anymore because it wasn't so long ago, the moment that Photoshop files started in the PDF format came out, that was a game changer, and suddenly vector artwork, any type of vector artwork, was seen as clip art because it was passé then.
Mm-hmm.
People really didn't need it. And I stopped doing vector clip art. I stopped, I realized 10 years I'd been doing nothing but vector stuff, and I went completely back to doing just cartoon work. And just scanning things in and doing it that way. And suddenly my business turned around. So, anyway, that was just me commiserating a little bit about that. Well, I kind of like these little scrolls here on my package. But I'm wondering if they might be unnecessary.
I don't know. I feel like they give it some flavor, and it's kind of a nice breather so that it's not as scrunched up as the way you did the logo on the top of the box. If you don't want them to be as pronounced, just make them a color instead of white. Or maybe make them like a gray to match the side of your box.
Yeah, let's try that.
Oh, and while you're at it, I know this is nitpicking, but that B is pretty close to that S.
It is. You can't really unsee it once it's pointed out.
Uh-huh. Tell me about it. I mean, it's sort of it's gotten to the point where one of the reasons I hate the election season is all those damn signs. I mean, it's sort of like, guys, you spend this you have this huge war chest. You can spend it on somebody who actually knows the concept of kerning, who's seen it in a dictionary at least.
Well, it's because a lot of those signs, they're not made by the official party propaganda machine. They're made by, like, little local shops that are churning those out for, like, 50 cents a piece.
If they're lucky, I have visions of some intern with a basic word kit doing it.
Actually, I've been one of those guys that's been hired to put one of those signs together. And political campaigns spend nothing. It's worse. It's the worst sweatshop you could possibly imagine. So the reason that there's no kerning is the designer retaliating against the fact that they weren't given enough money to do anything.
That I find more palatable.
So every time you see bad kerning, just throw up your fist in mutual defiance, knowing that the guy who made that is flipping the bird to the guy who paid for the sign.
Okay.
Or worse, I'm suddenly getting wonderful images of the catering scenes in Fight Club.
Yep.
Art Chantry, the guy who he basically is given the credit for creating the look for the grunge scene through his design. He did the logo for Nirvana. And this is back before computers. And so Nirvana came in and said, "Oh, we just need a logo. We don't have." They had like no money to pay for this logo. I think it was less than $200. So he basically picked the font and condensed it down. And this is back in the day when you had to do it with math. And he gave it to the typesetter, and the typesetters pumped it out. And so naturally, there wasn't any. You had to do all the kerning by hand and cut and paste. But Art just looked at it and went, they didn't pay me enough. And he just slapped some wax on it and put it in. And it was such a... Now everyone looks at the Nirvana logo with its awful kerning. They think, "Oh, what a wonderful style." They went so off-grid by not putting the kerning in that it gave it this grunge look. No, it's just sheer lack of budget and effort on Art's Art's behalf. Okay,
that did not work out well.
Yeah, I kind of like the little squiggles in the gray. That's a little less strong, and I'm thinking I might put some up on the... I wonder how they would look up here. Maybe I need to do some other ones. But I'm pretty happy with how this box is looking. I've been spending far too much time on it. And
what's it a box for?
You see all these monsters down here?
Yeah, I see the monsters.
This is a standard 52 poker deck, but on each card there's a different obscure horror movie monster.
Cool.
And I've been working on this series since 2014.
Nice.
It didn't take me long to do the inkings. I did about one a week, and then I would color one every time we did an Epic Sketchtime. But coloring just took way longer than I anticipated. I thought about originally just doing them as a black and white deck, but I knew they'd have far more appeal as a color deck. So I was going to do a Kickstarter on them this month, but still advised me against it, saying that I should wait until after summer, because traditionally Kickstarters during the summertime don't get nearly the same amount of boost as
another thought. I don't know if this has anything to do with would have anything to do with reality, but you might just be able to cash in on Halloween as well.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Or is that a case of like where with Christmas products, whatever you do, don't work on them remotely close to Christmas?
Well,
if you pitched it during like early October, you could kind of do both. Be like, hey, the Kickstarter's running at Halloween, and you'll get your decks in time to give it to somebody for Christmas.
Well, I'm thinking if I start it in September, as it rolls around to October, I could get some last-ditch sales interest in that by saying, "Oh, look at this deck of cards that I could get for Halloween." But let's see.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Thumbs up, guns out. Excuse me, folks. I'm going to make sure that no one's being left out.
Okay.
No, I have that. What? Oh, that earring. I should. We show up at the shoot together.
While Mark is away here, I want to ask Jim Kersey a question. Jim, what can you safely, legally, without spoilerly tell us about the comic you're working on?
Well, I didn't actually sign a contract, so probably
You can say whatever you want.
whatever I like. Just have to face the wrath of Mr. Wright.
Like, I see no one is right.
Well, it's or at least I'm trying to sort of draw it as sort of the classic 1950s alien, eerie kind of comic. It's got your alien abductions, your teenagers, and your angst, and all the stuff I guess you'd expect from something like that.
Cool.
But it's got its share of alien guys and spaceships and crazy technology. So yeah, just going for a nice, wholesome, alien invasion tale.
And what is its destined platform/format?
Well, we're hoping to get it sort of in one of the anthologies or one of the kind of monthly anthologies. There are a few around right now, I guess.
Very cool.
This is just like a nice teaser to that world. Unfortunately, it's taken me 6 months to draw 3 pages. He's a very patient man.
Well, it's funny. The comic strip I'm working on. I've been working on for I don't know how many months, and if I actually went back to my art desk and hand drew it and just scanned it and colored it, I could be done in a night. I could do it all in one night. But I've committed to doing it all digitally, so I just keep working on it every single Epic Sketchtime, and it'll be done by Christmas time, I think. This one 4-panel strip.
Yeah, I know the feeling. With this one, I am using it among other things as my big manga studio training project. And at the moment, I think I was spending a little too much time on that forest.
Yeah, the nice thing about drawing traditionally is once you put the ink down, there's no undo there. Whereas in digital, I'll read the same line 30 times until I get it right.
Oh yeah.
I kind of like that about inking. It really forces you just to forgive yourself. Say, I'm going to live with that stroke. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, right now I'm wondering if not getting into the commiseration, but just how much detail do some of those branches need, since this is supposedly a night scene.
Mm-hmm. Well, kind of the compromise I've made is doing it traditionally and then, letting myself screw up, knowing that once I scan it in, I can make the little tweaks that I need to make it to kind of fix things. And that's sped me up significantly.
So at this conference that I'm going to, I was asked to give a presentation on how to do whiteboard videos. And so every morning I've been doing a little stickman style strip. That would be just yet another panel in the demonstration. When I first went to this group, a conference about 4 years ago, I think it's the first one I went to, and I met a gal there named Janelle King, and one of the breakout sessions was her teaching how to do whiteboard videos. And I thought, oh wow, that's really cool, and I really want to do something like that when I get home. I wonder if I can find a client that'd be willing to do that. Not a week later, one of my clients that who I'd done work for in creating a comic strip for we had, well, that particular project was a lot of fun. It wasn't just we were doing a guerrilla we had come up with this guerrilla campaign idea where they would put this comic into an advertising space on the opinion page, and then, but because it was a comic, people would read it as a comic, and it would be more like a soft touch.
Oh.
And they kind of wanted to have like a Doonesbury-esque type atmosphere, so they approached me and they said, but we don't know how to do this. How do we do a strip and make it look like this? And I explained, I was practically quoting between, Scott McCloud's Understanding Comic and then the book How to Make Web Comics by, Scott Kurtz and those people, and saying, hey, okay, well, we need this many characters. We need, how many strips are we going to do? We need these characters to appear in such a time. Here's how I need your writers to come up with the stuff. And I explained to them that, how a 3-panel or 4-panel strip worked, where you had the premise, the setup, and then the gag and/or reconciliation of the gag. And once they really liked that first meeting, and we put together, I did initially 4, and then they hired me to do 2 more, so we had 6 of them. But before we put them in the newspapers, this was for a wind power concern, because we had there were a lot of NIMBYs saying, I don't want a wind farm in my backyard along the Columbia Gorge here in Washington State. But before we started running those, like in the Wenatchee or stuff, they decided that it was actually too well done. That the comic would, if it was in the newspaper, would garnish too much attention. They would come across as being too heavy-handed. They even thought about putting down a disclaimer at the bottom saying this strip was sponsored by such and so. But in the end, they just decided to switch over and do a postcard campaign and put those on postcards and mail them out. And that had the same effect. I was really sad that it wasn't actually used in the newspaper. Anyway, he came to me and they had just done a 20-minute documentary where they were documenting the growth of wind power and against normal other power in the Columbia Basin Gorge and some of the trials and errors and things. And basically, it was a lot of talking heads, well done, some live footage, but they wanted to have some of the talking heads be broken up by little whiteboard explanations of what they were talking about. So I said, yeah, I know how to do this. And found a videographer. We set up in his basement, or in his garage, and we did my first whiteboard, and put a clip of that up on YouTube. My art rep saw that. Microsoft had hired this other place called I think Gravity Design, I think is what they were called. And they were looking for someone to do a whiteboard. And they showed them my work, and they said, okay, great. So my next one was for Microsoft. And then when I started showing that around on Facebook, another friend of mine named Alan Gladfelter, who had been doing whiteboards for a different company in Idaho, well, he had since moved on to do a cartooning, a character design gig for a gun manufacturer of all places, and was no longer available to do whiteboards, so they called me up and I started doing whiteboards for them. Then the next thing I know, Janelle calls me up, and one of her clients, their deadline had moved up. Could I please go in and fill in for her? Because she had seen my other work that I'd been doing, and she felt comfortable that I could, stand in her stead. And it just snowballed. And so now I do mainly whiteboards. And why isn't this blocked? I can't get the size of this. Oh, there we go. I guess that's my minimum size. Okay. Anyway, that's me rambling on and on about how
You can get it smaller by changing the point size on your brush. You can affect the brush size using the brackets, but also if you just go to the normal stroke function, you can put in decimal points of a point.
Oh, thanks. I didn't think about doing that.
Yeah, that's actually where, if you're using the pressure brush, which, do you have pressure turned on those, or are you just doing equidistant brush strokes?
I think I'm just doing equidistant.
Yeah, I don't think you even have pressure turned on. Because that's one way, if you have pressure turned on, you've got some funny line variation, is you can adjust stuff. Well, you're using the blob brush, which actually fuses everything as you go. I'm used to using the normal brush in there, which works a little differently.
I'm trying to play around and get used to the blob brush. But maybe I'll try... So you just use the paintbrush then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I usually use the calligraphic brush. Here, I'm actually in Illustrator right now, so...
Okay, so I go up to the calligraphic tool. Okay.
Yeah, and then just use a normal brush and you can get all kinds of line variation.
Okay, let me go into my brush tips.
And if you, for some reason, like you don't want it to go all the way down to 0 points, you can even adjust it in here, and you can, by lowering the variation, you can make it so like the thinnest it goes is sort of like a medium thickness, like you could get more of a Sharpie effect. Now to erase all of this, because this is my panels layer. Let me go back to Photoshop. Where are you at?
I just have to find the, where was the calligraphy tool hiding? Underneath the paintbrush?
It's in the, yeah, some paint bucket up here. And then you can make new calligraphy brushes too. You just click the new brush pen, select calligraphy. You can make chisel tips, which is really cool if you're kind of making your own font or logos. So like I could be like,
What version are you running?
I think this one is like CS4. I purposely am running a legacy version because the newest version of the Cloud Suite does not play nice with my drawing tablet at all. I'm on CC, so that one's like the very first of the Cloud editions. But I know this calligraphy brush has been in there for a while because I've been using it for like 6-8 years now. So I think it's been in since at least like CS2.
Okay.
Possibly longer than that.
'Cause I'm in, okay, I
But
know
like,
that.
yeah, like I could like make like fake calligraphy effect even with it. Like, gee whiz, it's called calligraphy brush. I just realized how dumb that sounds. But you can actually do like make it look like a crow quill pen or something. Ugh.
So
Yeah,
I'm
it's kinda
looking in my brush. And I'm just not
Wait,
finding.
how old of a copy of Illustrator are you running?
This is CS4.
You should have it. Are you in your brush palette?
Maybe I need to pull up. Let me
It's
see
like,
if I-
yeah, if you go to Window, Brushes, that should be the same palette that everybody sees.
window.
And that's been in there since, like, this brush palette hasn't really changed since, like, Creative Studio, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got it open. I see it there. It's up above your colors palette.
Ah,
So if you click the little button down there, see the little new page, bottom right, next to the trash can?
okay. Oh, click on that.
Yeah. And it looks like you've got a couple of calligraphic brushes already ready there.
Ah, here we go.
Oh, is it on the other window?
Yeah,
Yeah, so you can make calligraphy brushes, you can make scatter brushes, art brushes. The newer ones, you might not have bristle brushes. Those are pretty recent, and I honestly haven't really played with them. Pattern brushes can be cool if you want to make like an effect that wraps along the path. So my coworker Christine actually made a really cool one today where she made a pattern brush for ropes. So now when she draws, it just like automatically puts the little coiled squiggles on there, and like she draws like that and it automatically makes a rope.
Oh, nice.
It's really cool. I want to steal that brush off her.
That's something I always assumed would be more trouble than it's worth with tweaking.
Ah,
Yeah, but she's doing a project where she has to draw like rope knots all over a 12-foot wall covering.
Uh-huh.
So an hour spent making the brush saves her so many hand motions in the long run.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've seen that done in Canvas where the pressure sensitivity does the thickness of the rope, so you can actually have it moving in and out.
Oh, that's cool.
There's some crazy stuff.
so how do I make it touch sensitive on the brushes?
It looks like you've got some touch sensitivity.
Let
Or are you not? Maybe you're in blob brush mode still and not
let me
brush mode.
No, I'm in brush mode.
Paintbrush tool. I mean, it should just. I mean, did you double check? Right now, you're not. That's not a calligraphy brush. That's an art brush. The one that you've got selected right now. So that's never going to have any touch sensitivity. Let me close the door. My husband's laughing too loudly.
Let's see, how do I get
So
that?
only the little ones at the top in the little squares, those are calligraphy brushes, if they're in the little small squares. If they're along, here, let me switch off screen here for a second. If they're in the long, wide brush selections, those are art brushes, and what those do is they take a shape and stretch it along the course of the path. So you're never going to have any line variation. It's just going to tweak that to the shape of the path that you want.
I'm up here. I'm grabbing one of the calligraphy brushes, but I'm still getting a. Oops. Okay, so I go over here.
If you double tap on that calligraphy brush, you can check the pressure settings on it.
Ah.
Because it's possible that it's not set up for pressure, and then you can tweak it. So
Okay.
the bottom part where it says diameter is fixed, switch that to pressure. See, it says angle,
Yeah, I see it now.
roundness. So if you switch that to pressure,
Okay.
and then crank up the variation, because right now there's 0 variation, so pressure
So
will go from 3 to 3. If you take the variation up to 3, then that means pressure will go from 0 to 3. It's not the most intuitive. I'm not sure who thought that was the best way to display it, but that's how it is in Illustrator. So now if you click OK and you start squiggling, you should see some stuff.
Now I also get this brush change alert.
So what that's telling you is any brushes, any strokes that you already did with this brush, you can either leave them, which will not save your settings, or apply, which it's saying will now those brush strokes will have pressure.
Oh, there we go.
So it's warning you that anything you've drawn before now will be changed if you change those settings.
Okay, now I have it.
You're welcome.
But now, if I want to do anything, I have to then take this and change it over to a shape, and
Which is really easy. You just go to Object Expand.
yeah, you select it, Object Expand. Okay. Thank you very much for that quick tutorial. Very helpful. I'm trying to decide if a little cute skull and crossbones on the top would be appropriate.
I don't know. Crossbones screams pirate. I think just the skull by himself. You could do like a closed skull on one side and like an open skull on the other, like laughing skulls.
Yeah, but I've got these little beware stop. I'm not in love with these skulls at the top.
Hey, Mark, since you're doing movies, maybe the kind of smiley, frowny drama masks as skulls.
Ooh.
Oh! Yeah, that's...
Man, we're
I think
giving
that's
Mark
the
so
right
much
one
help
right
tonight. We should be like...
That's sort of like a theater thing, but yeah, I get where you're going with that. Now I'm actually feeling like I have to design something along those lines.
Well, hey guys, I gotta cut out, but thanks for having me, and guess I'll see you guys in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Well, probably August, right?
August.
Yeah.
We're not taking off the whole summer.
No, it's only Stowe says he'll bring it back in August.
Okay.
I won't be here for the next one in August, but I'll be still in DC, but I'll see you guys later in August.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot, guys, and yeah, have a great night.
See you, Jim.
Night.
I think it's about time for me to drop off too. It's kind of late here on the East Coast. It's about 11:30. Time for me to get some shut-eye. So it's been a pleasure, and I will see you all in August.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Well, Bill and Crystal, I too am going to sign off, and since I think when I
What?
sign off, the broadcast ends, does it end when I sign off?
I think the
Okay.
broadcast ends
Before
when you
go,
sign
see what
off.
you think.
I mean, I think I can stop the broadcast, but it'll still stay up if I leave the window alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think last time, like, when you left, the broadcast ended, like, it pops up a little thing saying you're no longer broadcasting, but
Mhm.
it doesn't kick us out of Hangouts. If we just wanted to sit around and talk, we could stay, it wouldn't kick us out, but it won't stream to the internet anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to go and have some supper. Some wonderful spaghetti tonight, which I'm really looking forward to. And I'll see you guys all in August.
Okay.
Right? Sounds good. Night, Mark.
Night.
Night.